The scorch pattern on the derelict relay didn't match anything in 400 years of Concord ballistics records, and that was the first thing that told Auditor Vesa Kern that something was wrong before she even opened the file. Not the size of the mark, not the depth, the shape. A single clean circle, 11 centimeters wide, punched through 8 layers of hardened plating without a single degree of heat bloom around the edges. Weapons left a mess. Explosions left a mess. This left a hole so precise it looked like the universe itself had simply decided that a piece of metal should no longer exist there. She stared at the image for 11 minutes before she opened the incident report underneath it. The report said the relay had been destroyed by a human vessel during a routine compliance exercise 9 days earlier. The report said the human vessel had used a weapon system that was, on paper, completely legal. Vesa Kern had spent 60 years auditing the compliance of member species under Concord weapons law, and she had never once seen a report that made her hands go cold before she'd read past the second paragraph. 14 months before that morning, the Concord's Grand Assembly had passed Statute 4471 by a margin so overwhelming it barely needed a formal vote. The statute was simple, elegant, and, everyone agreed, long overdue. It prohibited any member species from deploying electromagnetic mass acceleration weapons, railguns, in the old Terran vocabulary, capable of launching a projectile heavier than 15 kilograms at velocities exceeding Mach 7, generating more than 32 megajoules of kinetic energy at the muzzle. The threshold had not been chosen at random. Concord engineers had spent 3 years studying every known human railgun prototype, cross-referencing captured specifications and open trade data, and had set the ceiling precisely where humanity's demonstrated technology sat. It was not a subtle message. It was a number built specifically to fit around a species like a collar built specifically to fit around a neck. Humanity had spent decades chasing the weapon, burning through budgets that would have fed small worlds, wrestling with barrel erosion and power draw problems that had made half the Concord's engineering cast openly mock the program as a graveyard for good money. And now, the moment the technology had finally matured into something usable, the Concord had simply voted to make it illegal to use. The human ambassador, a compact, unhurried man named Elias Okafor, had stood in the assembly chamber when the vote was read aloud and said nothing at all for 11 full seconds. Vesa Kern had been sitting 3 tiers up in the observer gallery that day, and she remembered thinking, at the time, that 11 seconds of silence from a species famous for filling every available quiet with words was the loudest thing she had ever not heard. Then Okafor had simply said, "We accept the statute," and sat back down, and the assembly had moved on to the next item of business, as though nothing unusual had happened at all. Nothing unusual happened. Not for 14 months. Human railgun programs were formally decommissioned across every registered shipyard. Concord inspection teams, Vesa Kern's teams, were given full access to human orbital facilities, and they took that access seriously, walking the gantries personally, running their own sensors over cold, silent launch rails that had once been humanity's proudest and most expensive failure turned finally into a working weapon and were now simply scrap. The compliance was, by every measurable standard, perfect. Too perfect, in the private opinion of exactly one auditor, who had learned over 60 years that species which had fought hard for something rarely let go of it this quietly, and who had flagged the human compliance file for follow-up review, and been told, politely, to stop wasting Concord observation time on a case that had already closed itself. She had stopped writing about it. She had not stopped watching. The first anomaly came from a trade registry clerk, not from any intelligence division, which was itself the kind of detail that made the whole thing feel more true rather than less. Civilian mining permits filed by human corporations in the outer belts of 3 separate systems had spiked by a modest, easily explainable amount. New resource surveys, new extraction contracts, nothing that triggered any formal review. What caught the clerk's attention, entirely by accident, was that the permits all specified an unusually large number of what were listed as signal repeater installations. Small, cheap, individually meaningless devices, the kind any expanding mining operation might scatter across a belt to keep its automated haulers in contact with each other. There were, across the three systems, 1,206 of them. Vesa Kern requested the full permit data on a Tuesday afternoon out of nothing more than habit, the same habit that made her double-check inspection logs nobody else bothered rereading. By Thursday evening, she had stopped sleeping. Each repeater installation, according to its own filed technical specification, was a small electromagnetic coil launcher. Individually, each one could accelerate a projectile of no more than 4 kilograms to a velocity of roughly Mach 2. It was, on its own, barely a weapon at all, closer to industrial equipment for firing survey probes into rock than anything resembling the banned railgun architecture. No single installation came anywhere near Statute 4471's threshold. No single installation would have registered on any Concord monitoring system as anything but exactly what its paperwork claimed it to be. Vesa Kern ran the numbers 17 times before she trusted them, because the number they kept producing was the kind of number that made a 60-year career suddenly feel like it had been spent looking in entirely the wrong direction. 1,206 coil launchers, spread across 3 systems, each individually legal, each individually harmless, and every single one of them aimed, when she finally overlaid the coordinates on a single chart, hands unsteady in a way she had not felt since her academy years. At the same points in space, thousands of kilometers apart, converging their fire on tightly calculated intercept geometries that no single launcher could achieve alone, and that all 1,206 of them, fired in perfect sequence, absolutely could. She sat with that chart open on her desk for a long time before she made the call that would end her career as she had known it, and begin the one she would actually be remembered for. The relay that had been destroyed, the one with the impossible clean hole, had been an old Concord deep space communications node, decommissioned decades earlier and left drifting because nobody had judged it worth the fuel to retrieve. It was supposed to be dead weight, forgotten furniture in the dark. When Vesa Kern pulled its maintenance logs, actually pulled them rather than trusting the summary that said routine decommission, no further activity, she found something that made the cold feeling in her chest sharpen into something closer to dread. The relay had been pinging automated diagnostic signals every 31 days for 6 years after its official decommission. Not to any Concord address. To an encryption key that had last been active in the private communications architecture of a species called the Thren Combine, a species with a long, quiet, deniable history of funding proxy conflicts against smaller Concord members from behind exactly this kind of dead, forgotten infrastructure. Someone had turned an abandoned Concord relay into a covert command node, and someone else had found it, quietly, without filing a single complaint, and put a 15-centimeter hole through the center of it with a weapon that did not officially exist. She requested a formal audience with Ambassador Okafor. It took 4 days to be granted, and when it finally happened, it happened not in a conference chamber, but in a small, ordinary meeting room with 2 chairs and a pot of something dark and bitter that the humans called coffee, and that Vesa Kern found she disliked intensely, and drank anyway, because refusing felt, in that moment, like giving something away. "You're going to ask about the relay," Okafor said before she had finished sitting down. "I am going to ask about 1,206 relays," Vesa Kern said. 14 so far. We expect there are more. She sat with that for a long moment, turning the bitter coffee cup slowly between her hands without drinking from it, watching the shuttle finish its approach outside the narrow window. "You built an illegal weapon disguised as compliance," she said, "to solve a problem the Concord's own institutions failed to act on." "We built a legal weapon," Okafor corrected gently, without any heat in it at all. "The Concord built the loophole the day it decided a rule this important could be reduced to 3 numbers on a page." He looked at her directly then, and something in his face was tired in a way that made her recalibrate, quietly and completely, everything she had assumed she understood about the calm, unhurried compliance of the past 14 months. "We didn't want this, Auditor. We spent 60 years chasing that weapon because we believed, the way you believe things when you've buried enough of your own people to earn the belief, that someday something would come from the dark that the rest of the galaxy wouldn't see coming in time. We built the thing we were allowed to build. We just refused to accept that legal and harmless had to mean the same word. Vesa Kern returned to her office that night and did not sleep. She pulled every Concord survey record touching the Kessa Reach going back 11 years, cross-referencing catalog entries that had never once been checked against each other, because no single division had ever been assigned to look at all of them at the same time. It took her most of the night. What she found sat in her stomach like a stone. The Thren Combine's proxy buildup wasn't a rumor or a paranoid extrapolation. It was documented, piecemeal, scattered across 6 different departmental filing systems that had simply never been asked to talk to one another, and it was, by any reasonable reading of the numbers, close to being ready. Human intelligence had not invented a threat to justify a weapon. They had found a real one, sitting in the Concord's own blind spot, and built the only tool they were legally permitted to use to answer it. She requested full authorization to observe the network's activation from the Concord's own monitoring division 3 days later, and it was granted with unusual speed, because by then the Thren Combine's forward elements had crossed into contested space near 2 small member worlds that had spent the last decade formally, repeatedly, and fruitlessly petitioning the Concord for defensive support they had never received. Vesa Kern watched from a secure relay station as the human network went active across 3 systems simultaneously, 1,206 individually unremarkable launchers spinning up in perfect, silent coordination, their combined power draw carefully staggered so that no single facility's energy signature ever crossed a threshold that would have drawn attention on its own. The strike, when it came, was almost anticlimactic to watch on a sensor display, which she would later understand was exactly the point. There was no single dramatic flash, no cinematic collapse of a great weapon firing. There were 1,206 small, precisely timed launches, each one individually unremarkable, converging across staggered light minutes on a set of coordinates that had never been announced to a single Concord official, arriving within a margin of 9 milliseconds of each other on 11 separate Thren Combine forward assets that had, until that exact moment, believed themselves to be operating from perfectly secure, perfectly deniable positions. Not one civilian structure was touched. Not one inhabited world registered so much as a stray fragment of debris in its orbital shell. 11 forward assets, each one carefully verified through weeks of human reconnaissance to be logistics and command infrastructure rather than crude population centers, simply stopped existing within the same 9 milliseconds, and the Thren Combine's forward buildup, the one the Concord's own threat office had declined to review 3 separate times, came apart in a single silent movement that no Concord sensor array had been positioned to even properly witness in real time. Vesa Kern watched the sensor logs replay 4 times before she trusted what she was seeing. Then she opened a channel to Ambassador Okafor's office and found, unsurprisingly, that he was already awake. "You did this without a single Concord authorization," she said. It wasn't quite an accusation anymore. She wasn't entirely certain what it was. "We did this under a Concord statute the Assembly voted for unanimously," Okafor said. "We just refused to let that statute mean what everyone assumed it meant." There was a pause on the line, and in it, Vesa Kern found herself thinking, unexpectedly, of a small detail buried in the human personnel files she had pulled during her 3 sleepless nights of research. A young engineer named Petra Voss, 26 years old, who had designed the coil launcher's timing synchronization system, and who had, according to a footnote in an internal human memo nobody had intended for Concord eyes, spent every evening of the 11-month project video calling her younger brother so she could help him with his mathematics homework from 4 systems away, because their parents worked night shifts and someone needed to be there when he got stuck on long division. It was a small, useless, entirely irrelevant fact, and Vesa Kern found she could not stop thinking about it, about a species capable of building something this quietly devastating while also, in the same breath, in the same year, in the same tired engineer's evenings, still finding room to help a child with homework across the dark between stars. "Give me the honest question, then," Okafor said finally, when the silence had stretched long enough that he clearly understood she was working through something she hadn't yet found words for. Not the diplomatic one. "Why didn't you tell us?" Vesakern said. "Any of it. The nodes, the build-up, the network. You could have brought this to the assembly the day you found the first relay." "We tried," Okafor said, and for the first time since she had known him, there was an edge under the calm, something worn thin by a very long patience. 11 months ago. Filed through proper channels, flagged priority, escalated twice. It sat in a review queue behind border tariff disputes and a fishing rights complaint between two systems that don't even share a star. We were told formally, in writing, that the assessment would be reviewed within the standard 18-month cycle. He let that sit for a moment. 18 months, Auditor. The Kessa Reach didn't have 18 months. 2 inhabited worlds didn't have 18 months. We had exactly one number on a page telling us what we were allowed to build, and we built it, and we used it, because waiting for permission that wasn't coming was never actually protecting anyone. It was just protecting the paperwork. The Concord assembly session convened 9 days later was the largest in over a century, and Vesakern delivered her testimony standing at the center of a chamber packed with representatives from every member species, all of them watching her with the particular stillness of beings who already suspected, correctly, that whatever she was about to say would not let the galaxy return quietly to what it had been the week before. She laid out the full account, without softening a single detail. The 14 months of perfect compliance, the coil launchers filed as mining equipment, the 11 months of ignored threat assessments, sitting untouched in a review queue behind a fishing dispute, the 11 forward Thren assets removed in 9 milliseconds without a single civilian casualty. When she finished, the chamber sat in a silence that reminded her, uncomfortably, of the 11 seconds Ambassador Okafor had once let stretch across this same room after the original vote. "The humans did not break Statute 4471, she told the assembly, when the silence had gone on long enough that someone needed to be the one to end it. They read it more carefully than the body that wrote it. We built a rule out of 3 numbers and assumed that numbers alone could contain a species that has never, in its brief presence among us, treated a rule as anything other than a puzzle to be solved. The failure here is not human deception. It is our own institutional certainty that a threshold on a page could ever be a substitute for actually